Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Halo 2 Anniversary Master Chief from McFarlane. Everybody thought this was going to be just another re-release with some extra weapons. Turns out it's actually not. Well, it kind of is, and it kind of isn't, and I'll explain. We already got a Halo 2 Master Chief as part of the McFarlane Anniversary / Universe line of Halo figures, and that is this one here. He came with the 2 red plasma rifles, just like this one does. So we kind of thought, and by we I mean most of the people I talked to, we thought it was going to be just a re-release of this figure with more weapons. As you can see, it's not the same figure at all. It's not even close to the same size, and if you look at the articulation, not the same shoulders, not the same hips, not the same just about anything. In fact, it's not the same anything. So that's kind of good. One good thing is that they based it kind of on the same stuff. I mean, he's got the new hands to hold the weapons, so that's good. I think this one's color scheme might be a little bit better, but as you can see, it's definitely not the same figure, so we can go ahead and just set this one aside. Now, I said it's kind of a re-release, and that's because not that long ago we got a Halo 3 4-pack with Master Chief and the Arbiter and 2 Elites, and that was this figure right here. And it turns out that that's almost what this figure is. It's not exactly the same. You can see we have some different parts, but a lot of it is very similar, if not the same. I do believe that they used some parts, but now that I'm looking at it, maybe they didn't. Maybe it's just very similar. I think they based it on the same design, because upon further inspection, I'm thinking like the internal bodysuit might be the same, but even there it doesn't look like it. So you know what? Ignore everything I just said. It's not the same. It's just the same scale. It's not the same at all. Even the parts that are basically the same thing between Halo 3 and Halo 2, like the leg armor, it's not quite the same. The boots are different. Everything is different. That's awesome. Everything is awesome, just like the Lego movie said. So there you go. You've got a comparison between the 2 figures it might have been a reissue of, and it's not a reissue. So even I learned something just there. I mean, I knew it had some differences. I thought it had some similarities, but I guess not. So that's a very good thing. And a cat. Stop rubbing on the camera while I'm shooting a video. Get out of here. Alright, so let's see. This new Halo 2... Stop. Don't put your face right in the camera. This new Halo 2 Master Chief is 5 3/4 inches tall. 5 3/4 inches. It's always weird to say that, but you get the idea. It's just a 1/4 inch shy of 6 inches. So definitely has some good size to it, especially compared to the older McFarlane figures. So that's a very nice thing. And like I pointed out already, he came with a nice slew of weapons. We have the 2 plasma rifles, the brute plasma rifles. It's a little tricky to get him in and out of his hands, but he can hold them. Once they get in there, they're a little bit loose, so be careful with that. It's going to be a little tricky to pose him sometimes, but he can hold them since he has 2 hands that are shaped just like this. So they can be used for the battle rifle or the other weapons. Haven't put the SMGs in there yet, so we're going to find out about that right now. These guns don't come with pegs, even though they have the peg holes in the handles, so that's something to note. The SMGs do come with weapons pegs, so we're going to pull those out and see how they fit in his hands. Hopefully they fit nicely, because I think I'd like to display him holding the SMGs. The trigger finger, I don't believe is sculpted separately, so you're going to have to run an X-Acto knife or something through there. But he can hold them. You're just going to need to cut that finger separate so that you can get it in that the actual trigger guard. But he can hold them well enough as is, so we'll do that for now. Just make sure it works on both sides. Definitely would be better, yeah, see how it's kind of loose on that one, to get that finger inside that trigger guard. But that's okay, I guess. It would be better if they had the individually sculpted fingers. And then we also get the battle rifle. So we have 2 of the dual wielding weapons and the battle rifle. These are the first appearance of all of these guns, so that's kind of nice. Even though the plasma rifles are just red plasma rifles that we've seen before. Now I don't know how well he's going to actually be able to hold this weapon, since it doesn't have a very big grip and he doesn't have a trigger finger. So it looks like not very well at all. That's kind of disappointing. I mean, it'll kind of balance in there, but they didn't even hollow out the trigger guard. So you could do some work to it and get that to work, but it's not gonna be great. Whoa, what's that? My battle rifle has a bunch of white stuff on it. That's disappointing. I don't know what that is. Huh. Bummer. Well, anyway, let's see if he can hold it with two hands, at least kind of, so it's not horribly useless. Although I probably would just put on his back anyway. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of get it in there. It's not great, but he'll hold it well enough. And it does have a little bit of paint on there for the scope, so it's not horrible. He also comes with a grenade, so that's always good. He's got a grenade, and it's got a peg hole, but the peg, you really have to stretch it and push really hard to get it over these pegs back here. So it's not going to work all that well, but he does have it, and you can kind of wedge it on. All of the other weapons there, you have a peg hole in either thigh, and then in the back. So it's he's got a nice batch of accessories that he can utilize fairly well. Now let's look at the articulation. The head doesn't have quite as much as I was hoping for, but it's definitely not bad by any means. It's a double ball peg. It's just a little bit more limited. Can't look up all that well, but still looks pretty good. The head seems a bit small to me because they really broadened his shoulders and made the figure bigger, and I don't think they made the head bigger. So the head looks a little bit small. Not so much so that it's a huge problem, and once you get imposed it's okay, but it looks a little small to me. For the shoulders, we have a ball hinge. Doesn't have the greatest range of motion, but it's probably going to be good enough. There's no bicep swivel, unfortunately. You just get that down here in the elbow, which is hinged. You don't quite get 90 degrees out of it, though. A little trimming could open that up, but as is, you're pretty limited. And then for the wrist, we get a swivel and a hinge. Same on both sides. For the upper torso, you can see in there, well, maybe you can't, but I can, and it's a double ball peg. It's a very short ball peg, but it has a really nice throw, or a nice range of motion. So you can really bring him forward, you can bring him back a little bit side to side. Not a huge amount, but probably good enough. So that's okay. And then of course we have the rotation. So, you know, it's pretty good range of motion, especially going forward. It's just a little hollow looking when you lean him back, but it's not so bad that it would be a problem, I don't think. And then for the hips themselves actually swivel forward and back. And then we have like a ball peg down here for the thigh, which is supposed to give us the sideways, the lateral motion. It doesn't really do a good job of that, but we can bring the legs forward and back on that joint a little bit too, so that'll help us in some posing. And then of course we have our swivel built into there. Then for the knee, it's just like the elbow. Although this time we get about 90 degrees. It's hinged there, and it rotates where it connects. It does not rotate in the lower leg though. And then for the ankle, it'll swivel at the top of the ankle joint and at the foot, so you can spin that around and use that as an ankle rocker if you want to. Get them in some pretty decent poses, but it's kind of an ugly joint. They didn't sculpt it at all, so that's not ideal. And then for the toe, it's just a ball peg. I think it's a single, it might be a double. It doesn't give you a huge range of motion, but it is there. You can rotate it also. So I mean, you can probably pose him pretty well, and I'll pose him and put him in some photos in a slideshow at the end of the video so you guys can see what he looks like in action. I do recommend the figure. It's pretty decent. It's definitely one of the better figures from McFarlane. There's no real QC issues other than a few loose joints here and there, but it's not horrible by any means. And for, I think at the most expensive place like GameStop, it's only like 15 bucks. So I think you're probably getting a really good figure for a fairly low price. Definitely recommend it, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.